Hi guys, we're live. Your favorite pseudo-intellectual, Lord Hellespont V, holding court here in the ancestral manor. Who am I kidding? I'm in downtown LA. It's nasty, it's vicious, it's miserable, it's stinky, but what can you do? It's home. I'd love to have you guys here, just chilling, talking watches with friends, drinking some coffee in the afternoon. Hey, Night Diver. It's nice to see you here. It's always a pleasure to have you on board. Brad Allen, thanks for joining from Cairns, Australia. Nice to see you both. So here's the thing, once you start becoming visible in some sort of fashion on social media, people start feeding you different kinds of information, sending you some documents here and there. And I was lucky enough this time around that someone actually sent me an entire PDF of a newsletter that was circulated among authorized retailers by Rolex. And it has a list of every single model, just to give you an idea. It talks about the new features. It talks about the general outlines of what else is included or featured in that model in terms of the movement, the aesthetics, the slight improvements. And then it also has a section which can be of particular interest to us, where it talks about the important aspects of that watch's heritage, provenance, and utility that can help the particular retailer sell that watch to the end customer. So that gives us a glimpse to some of their marketing strategies, but also some of their design ideas in terms of what they sought to address with those modifications they have made, for example, to the case of the Air King, and what they had in mind when they introduced this Gmt Master Destro, this Gmt Master model that is reversed and that is meant to be worn on the right hand. So we'll get, I hope, over the course of this live stream, a better understanding of some of those issues. I'll talk for a little bit, just go over each and every model, and then I'll post a link, and I hope someone will jump in with me and we will have a more free-flowing conversation about some of these new releases. And quite honestly, I have to say, some of it caught me off guard, but most of what you see in terms of the Rolex releases in Watches and Wonders 2022 is really predictable, right? We have come to expect certain things from this brand, which is cosmetic changes and slight improvements and modifications in each and every iteration, where you have a very recognizable core and a very familiar aesthetic with every model in the lineup, in that they compare so favorably and so similarly to even some of the vintage models, except they have incorporated all these technological improvements over the years and slight aesthetic changes that make them ever so slightly different from one iteration to another. That's another thing that Rolex does, even though it's often said that Rolex doesn't care about collectors. They want to destroy the secondary market. There might be some truth to those statements, but one of the things that Rolex does to encourage collectors and to emphasize collectability are those slight changes they make from one production year to another, that give every single model something new, something discernible, something distinct in the lineup. So without further ado, let's just have this full screen, and I will recede into the background until I'm need it again. And we'll go one by one through these things. Again, welcome, Rohit. Welcome to the channel. Aussie expat. I don't know why I said expat. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. Rolly Mania, lovely to see you here. And Meatball and Mario, let's get it on. So here we have the Air King, which really headlines this release. A new generation Air King with a restyled case, restyled bracelet and dial, especially in the way they added that zero, that infamous zero next to the first 5 to balance out the dial a little bit. And they loomed, of course, the 369 now, and it has the Oyster lock clasp now and the caliber 3230. So in a way, even with the introduction of the crown guards, of course, you see a new Air King that is integrated into the professional lineup, right? Which caught me by a slight surprise, I have to admit, because at the end of the day, my idea was that as years go by, Rolex is really trying to distinguish between one model to another, where they don't necessarily replicate many of the features. But then again, they're also bound by limitations and contours of industrial production, right? So I think streamlining some of the case designs and dimensions saves them a lot of money and time when you think that they produce almost 1 million watches every year. So the cynical side of me says that the introduction of crown guards has something to do with that. The more enthusiastic side of me says, I love it. I love it. I think, to me, a modern Rolex sports watch has to have crown guards. Again, personal preference. So to me, this makes the Air King more recognizably a Rolex sports watch and infinitely more interesting to someone like me. This is just the table of contents, and here we have a closer look at the Oyster Perpetual Air King. The reference number 126900, 40mm case, symbolizes the privileged relationship between Rolex and aviation during its golden age in the 1930s, right? So that's why we had that whole reference skywards in the teaser of this campaign. And it pays tribute to pilots of the era and the Oyster's role in their epic history. The name Air King has featured on the dial since its launch in 1958 in lettering that makes the model immediately recognizable. Right? It's in a particular font, of course. Since 2016, the Air King has had a distinctive black dial with a combination of large 369 numerals marking the hours and a prominent minute scale for optimal navigational time readings. The name Rolex and the seconds hand are green, echoing the brand's emblematic color, right? And I think that's always an interesting detail. To me, when I see that particular shade of green and gold together, I can't think of anything else. And it's nice to have something in the lineup that has this sort of over-the-top explicit reference to that. And I actually like that. Some people think it's too much, that there's too much going on the Air King dial. I like it. The case is redesigned, right? The profile is now highlighted by the light reflections on the case sides. Straight sides now with the addition of the crown guard, larger twin lock winding crown, as you can see here. The numerals are now chromolite, right? So loomed on the inside. This time it's a lacquer dial, right, rather than the gloss dial. The bracelet is resized, so the case and bracelet remain proportional, which is something that Rolex started paying particular attention to. To me, it's been a great improvement with the Sea Dweller 43, with the new 41 millimeter cases across some of the professional models, concealed bracelet attachment, right? Again, for a more seamless integration between the bracelet and the case, and the caliber 3230 released about 2 years ago now with the 70 hours power reserve. You have all the main details here. And then you have kind of how they zoomed into the case sides to emphasize the crown guards, the polish, and the enlarged winding crown. And the new clasp. Oops. And there we have what is really distinctive about this particular document, where they have sales arguments, right? Remember again that this is a document circulated for authorized dealers. So it tells them to emphasize the tribute to aviation, emphasize the utility of that dial, right, which otherwise might be perceived as too busy, right? Highly legible 2-digit minute scale, the distinctive inscription of the Air King model name on the dial that gives the model that quirky edge, the Rolex green and the crown in yellow, again, that catches the eye in perhaps in an over-the-top manner, combined with the green seconds hand. But again, it just pops out of the dial in a different way. I think Air King has been long neglected, and it is finally finding its place in the Rolex lineup in the last couple of years. And I think that trend will continue. Of course, we have the Oyster Lock safety clasp and the chronometer certification. Next up is the Testo, is the Inversed Gmt Master Ii, meant to be worn on the right hand. I'm just gonna take a look quickly at the chat so I'm not missing out anything. Brad says, I like the improvements on this one for the Air King. Look forward to see it in person. Seems a bit thinner case. Yeah, I wouldn't pass any final judgment on any of these models before I see them in person. But of course, you know, knowing how hard it is to get, if you have a chance to already get in line or acquire one of these models as they come in, just bite the bullet and take the risk. Trust me, if you don't like the watch, you won't have problems getting rid of it. Turkey Vulture, welcome back to the channel. Love you, man. You have been here for a long time now in this very short life of the channel so far. So I really appreciate your support and presence. I like it, don't love it. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same place, but as someone who has just begun to appreciate the Air King as a model, I like these improvements, and it makes me like the model even more. Is the case based on the Yacht-Master or sub, or is it a totally new design? All right, well, let's go back and see if we can get a better glimpse of that. I don't think it's an altogether new design, but I think it has a little bit of a contour here. Again, I hesitate to make any judgments based on promotional photographs that don't always have the right angle and aspect. But it seems that the lugs have the kind of contours that's more like the Yacht-Master than the sub. But I might be mistaken, of course. I would rather wait to see at least an exhibition-only model, which has become popular lately. All right, next up on the block is the Gmt Master Ii. The righty Gmt Master, reference 126720 VTNR, right? Vert and Noir, 40 millimeter Oyster steel. So we see that they have kept the Gmt Master case. They haven't moved, at least not yet, to the 41 millimeter cases. The Oyster Perpetual Gmt Master II was designed to display the time in 2 different time zones simultaneously. And of course, now you can kind of see 3 as well. Robust and functional, it is the ideal watch for crisscrossing the globe, is a point of reference among timepieces with multiple time zones. Introduced in 1982, worthy successor to the original Gmt Master model, launched in 1955. Right, we are continuing with the aviation theme in an important sense. Again, that whole reference skywards was very prominent in the marketing campaign earlier. This year, Rolex is unveiling a novel version of the case of the Gmt Master II with the winding crown and crown guard on the left side of the watch, a first for the model. The date aperture, the date window, has also moved and appears at 9 o'clock. This unexpected interpretation also features a 2-color monoblock Cerachrome bezel insert in green and black ceramic, a color pairing never before seen on this watch. Right, so, I mean, of course it's predictable, but you see how they have been harping on the unique aspects of this model, right? And I've already had arguments with people who insist, oh, Rolex produced right-hand watches before. Absolutely, but they were special order models, usually made for very special people or made as part of a larger bulk order, let's say for mil-spec watches or COMEX, like diver issued watches, where they produced some models that were inverted, that had the winding crown on the other side. Charlie Chaplin's personal Oyster watch was also a right-hander, meant to be worn on the right hand, and that was a special order as well. Anyway, so this is the first time where Rolex, as a full production model, that is inverted in this particular way, and that is meant to be worn on the right hand. Inverted winding crown and crown guard, this time on the left hand side. The date opening is also at the 9 o'clock. The Cyclops lens is present. 2-color 24-hour graduated monoblock Cerachrome bezel insert in green and black. Let's just go and call it Sprite, going with the soda pop theme of these Gmt Masters. Green lacquer 24-hour hand, which I'm happy to welcome back. This was one of my favorite aspects of the black Gmt. Of course, this time you don't have the green writing for the Gmt Master II. So once again, you see everything is distinct ever so slightly, so Rolex can preserve the integrity and distinction between certain production years and different models that they introduce with small, ever so slight modifications. Optimized chromolite display. This is something that they keep repeating in some of the watches, so we can only take them at their word. Exclusive luminescent material, longer lasting. Intensity of glow emitted. Anti-reflective coating on the sapphire crystal. And again, they emphasize the superlative chronometer certification. There we have the general features again. "70 hours power reserve, of course, with the caliber 3285, parachrome hairspring, paraflex shock absorbers, chronergy escapement." The green lacquer, fourth hand, the GMT hand, the 24-hour hand, echoes the same hue on the lower half of the bezel insert, and an entirely new color pairing. And the new version of the Gmt Master II crown, of course, is on the inverted side, which is the first for this cosmopolitan model. It says stands out as a point of reference among watches with multiple time zones. And here we have the confirmation, right, that the Jubilee bracelet will be an option for this model. Bidirectional, everything remains the same, except you have the Jubilee bracelet with the Oyster lock clasp and the EasyLink comfort extension. So I'm happy to share this with you. Meatball says I'm going to baptize it as the Hypnotoad. Funkmaster Flex GMT Turkey Vulture says Pan Am pilots were issued, yes, 6542 GMT Master, that iconic model, the original Pepsi GMT with the bakelite insert. Yes, these are for lefties, and lefties obviously prefer to wear their watch on the right. Hence the Italian name destro by the collectors for these models, meaning a righty, right? I'm a righty, I wear it on the left, and left-handers prefer to wear it on the right. I mean, it's just, ultimately, you can say it's just habit. To me, of course, it's really a utilitarian choice, because I use my right hand more, so I can somehow preserve my watch a little better when I'm wearing it on my left hand, which is less active. Let's see the sales arguments. I think that will provide us another glimpse. So we have confirmed that this watch can be ordered with the Jubilee bracelet. Cosmopolitan watch, right? The iconic travel time still replicated and copied by a lot of the competitors. Time in 2 time zones displayed simultaneously. Local time using the conventional hands, and a reference time or time in an alternative time zone thanks to the 24-hour hand and 24 graduated rotatable bezel. And of course, if you count the index markers as in 2-hour increments, with the help of the bidirectional bezel, you can both read what is at the point of the 24-hour hand and what is at the point of the usual hour hand, and calculate the third time zone. We can do a little tutorial on that on another live stream. Bidirectional rotatable bezel fitted with a specially designed spring that allows it to be turned crisply, comfortably, and securely in 1-hour increments. It's a beautiful design. You can't hardly argue against that. Emblematic and immediately recognizable design, particularly thanks to the 2-color 24-hour graduated bezel insert. Again, aesthetically, I do prefer, monochrome bezel inserts, honestly, but I have to agree that the bicolor bezel insert remains iconic for a GMT Master. So I'm actually glad that they introduced this in 2 colors rather than, say, an all-green bezel. It remains something different, something distinct, something new. So as you see, Rolex didn't really emphasize, as you may have predicted, that this watch is made for left-handers or anything, right? It might seem quite obvious. It might seem quite predictable that they would lean on that on their marketing campaigns, in their own manuals and newsletters, but they haven't. Instead, they're focused on how this is something new and unique, especially to this particular line, in their model of industrial production. Ultimately, they have just wanted to mix things up, because otherwise, again, 2022 is really good old Rolex, introducing some slight cosmetic changes and minuscule improvements in each and every model, and preferring, once again, evolution over revolution. But at the end of the day, we had this left-hand drive Gmt Master Ii that mixed things up a little bit. And ultimately, I think that was their intention, right? Our competitors might try to copy us, might try to imitate certain of our models that have been really popular and basically unobtainable over the years, but let us do something different, something entirely unexpected, and mix things up a little bit. So they didn't bring back the black GMT and just reiterated it with some minor change or improvement. They didn't just introduce a new bezel color or pay tribute to the Coke bezel as opposed to Pepsi. They have done something that wasn't expected. So we switch to the next one, which is the day date in platinum. And of course, here the most unique aspect is that for the first time, for Rolex at least, you have a fluted platinum bezel. And as you might know, platinum is much harder to work on. So it took them a while to perfect this particular element of decoration. And this is something that I just learned, by the way, just to quickly share that with you, that actually the fluted bezels have the same provenance as those, as the teeth on the case back of Rolex watches, right? Basically, initially when the Oyster case was designed, it was an element of its utility of achieving that dust-proof, waterproof seal by being screwed down from top and bottom of the case. And Rolex later took it up as an element of decoration and embellishment, and it has become part of, especially in dress watches, part of the iconic design language of the brand. So we have a platinum day date, platinum bezel, day date 40, 228, 236, with the presidential bracelet executed entirely in platinum, the iconic ice blue dial that goes with these models, and that heat blued second hand. Of course, you have the date, the day wheel that you can always choose in 26 different languages. And of course, you can always find the model in yellow, white, and pink gold, as well as the platinum. The fluted bezel replaces the smooth bezel, and in day date 36 platinum, you can choose either fluted or a gem set bezel, which I guess they emphasize both that it's a smaller version, but that it can also be understood as the ladies version too, especially with the gem set bezel. Not that that should be exclusive, not that that should hold anyone back, from having gems or diamonds on their watches, but you can kind of read into that. I really think that the ice blue dial is beautiful. You have the usual features here. It says, since 2021, Day-Date 40 in 950 platinum with an ice blue dial has featured an 18-karat white gold seconds hand with blue coating applied with PVD. Nice. So it's not actually the heat blued hand, but it still looks quite good to my eyes. A cornerstone of the Rolex aesthetic, fluted bezel, previously only made in 18-karat gold, now exists in platinum. Producing perfectly shaped fluting with sparkling surfaces was a considerable technical feat. The sales arguments are, as always, the most prestigious of Rolex watches, exclusively made in precious metals, instantly recognizable with the President bracelet, wide variety of combinations, which was always the argument for the President, right? Long before the Daytonas and every other model had these dial options, the Day-Date always had the whole gamut. They spelled out in full, available in a choice of 26 languages, instantaneous date with the Cyclops lens, and of course the chronometer certification. And here you have the options in 36. Again, the same model, basically a smaller size, same ice blue sunray finished dial, Roman numerals. And then you have the gem set one, which has the baguette diamonds for the index markers. And again, beautiful trapeze cut diamonds on the bezel. Very precious and beautiful watch. Next in line, we have the Yacht-Master 42. Turkey, I guess this is just Turkey Vulture shortening his name. Yeah, the Day-Date is absolutely amazing. It's Rolex showing off. I agree. Everyone expected the fluted bezel to come out at some point, and I think this was a very good time to do that. The Yacht-Master 42, again, we had the white gold for 42, and now we also have the yellow gold. I think this is also a very unique model. It's something that I really like in the Rolex lineup. I do prefer the 40 in rose gold, but I'm glad they have now the entire range of precious metal options, in addition to, of course, all those beautiful models with the rhodium dial, with the blue dial available in Yacht-Master 40 in steel. And here we have the 42. Launched in 1992, so the 30th anniversary celebrates the close bond that Rolex has shared with the world of yachting and regattas since the 1950s. Specially designed to meet the needs of sailors, these technical, elegant watches are above all useful and reliable onboard instruments. The Yacht-Master allows time intervals to be read thanks to their bidirectional 60-minute graduated bezel, made entirely from precious metal or fitted with a Cerachrome insert in technical ceramic. The Yacht-Master 42, which joined the range in 2019 in white gold, expertly blends functionality and nautical style, making it equally at home on and off water. Of course, it has, again, the Oyster Flex bracelet, right, which Rolex insists is a bracelet and not just a rubber band. And this is also the watch that is going to have some other dial options as well. What's new to the Yacht-Master line? The yellow gold. Again, the chromalite display improved, a sapphire crystal with reflective coating, and the dial in Falcon's eye. You have the Oyster Lock safety clasp, glide lock extension. The sales arguments: the larger 42mm size, which some people, of course, crave. The introduction of yellow gold. Of course, this particular case was only executed in white gold before. Ideal for navigators and skippers. Technical and elegant at the same time. I cannot but agree. I think these are really beautiful. And I've always loved the contrast between precious metal and the rubber of the oyster flags. I think it just dresses down that precious metal watch in a very beautiful way. That contrast of colors and textures in a way that also is reproduced between the bezel and the bezel insert as well, I think makes this a very unique watch in the lineup. Now, next in line, we have the Deepsea, which is, in a sense, emblematic of these gradual evolutionary changes that Rolex makes from one year to another. Turkey says I copied Meatball. Well, in that case, you have to change your name entirely, because it was the Golden Majestic Spaceball, if I'm not mistaken, initially. So finally, he relented and became simply Meatball. So you have to find something that's entirely different, but somehow related. So Deepsea basically what is just slightly different. It's still going to be available in both versions, right? Black dial, pitch black, and also the so-called James Cameron, right? Which has the lacquer deep blue dial that is transient from deep blue to pitch black, gradient, I should say. The diver's extension is removed, which is sort of strange or interesting, but I guess by now they have decided that one, no one really uses those. Two, there is the glide lock extension, so why can't we accommodate it with that rather than an extra system? Again, I'm not necessarily against it, but I've spoken on this topic before. It's an illusion now to call these tool watches. It's a little even cynical, I should say, that we look at these as simply functional sports watches, since only a fraction of people actually use these watches in the activities for which they may have been initially designed. At the end of the day, I kind of compared them to hunting dogs that we keep in urban environments, and they still get those traditional haircuts, and some of them get their tails even nipped when they're puppies, even though they won't be retrieving birds anytime soon, trying to struggle through bushes. So anyway, I might miss the diver's extension, but I don't think many people will. So this is the Rolex Deepsea, reference number 136660, 44 millimeters, of course, along with Yacht-Master II, one of the biggest watches in the current Rolex lineup, unveiled in 2008. It can withstand the extreme pressure exerted at a depth of 3,900 meters, 12,800 feet, an illustration of Rolex's expertise in waterproofness. It is equipped with the ring lock system, a case architecture developed and patented by the brand that combines a domed 5.5 millimeter thick sapphire crystal with a nitrogen alloyed steel compression ring and an RLX titanium caseback, right? The titanium caseback, pardon me, having been distinctive of the Deepsea from its launch. The case is also fitted, of course, with the helium escape valve, which is an incredible, I think, upper hand that Rolex has with a lot of its competitors, which have this extra crown basically latched onto some other part of the case. Rolex always has been very discreet with how they prototyped it and how they finally introduced and patented it with the Sea Dwellers in year 1967. So you basically just have that minor quote-unquote pusher on the side of the case. In 2014, of course, the James Cameron was presented as a commemorative version of the Rolex Deepsea, the deep blue dial, subtle deep blue to pitch black gradient, which pays tribute to the solo dive undertaken by filmmaker and explorer James Cameron in the Pacific Ocean in 2012. Aboard his submersible, he descended into the Mariana Trench to a depth of 10,908 meters, 35,878 feet. The date window was enlarged by 8%. The date itself is also larger, so a lot of emphasis on increased visibility, as they were also focusing on the optimized chromolite displays in all the models. The rotatable bezel has been slimmed down ever so slightly to accommodate the chamfered sapphire crystal, where the top edge is now beveled. The case back has been remodeled, thinner screw down ring, so maybe it will wear a little better now. Titanium alloy used to produce the case back, now renamed RLX titanium. Rolex Deepsea lettering engraved on the back chamfer and optimized chromolite display. Removal of the flip lock extension link, also removed from the Sea Dweller, so version in oyster steel. So I have to come to terms with the fact that the only watch I'm really interested in the contemporary lineup now has something different about it, and I don't know if I like it or not. Here you see the usual laundry list of the features, the version that is endearingly named James Cameron. You see the enlarged date and date window here on display, and the rotatable bezel, again, Rolex argues for aesthetic reasons, has been slimmed down to accommodate the chamfered sapphire crystal. The sales arguments: guaranteed waterproof to the extreme depth of almost 4,000 meters, right, 3,900. Ring lock system, patented case architecture, enables the watch to resist the pressure exerted at great depths, helium escape valve, the wonderful Oyster bracelet with the glide lock extension up to 20 millimeters, and of course the chronometer certification. We have the new Ladies Datejust, right, and the new dials, of course. The floral motif, especially preserved or reserved for Datejust 31. 20 flowers that stand out from one another on the dial. Distinct finishes, either sunburst, matte, or grained, and each is set with a diamond at the center, 24 precious stones, 3 different sizes, a touch of sparkle on the dial. And it will have 3 colors, right? It will have the azzurro blue, it will have the olive green, and silver, as shown here. Right, you can see that you can have it executed in full steel with the white gold bezel. You can have it executed in diamond set bezel in full gold with the presidential bracelet matching the size of the case in two-tone. The silver dial, the olive dial here. It seems like a beautiful lady's watch. Yes, can. I like that. I like that. I was mostly talking about my situation, right? I love a lot of hunting dogs. I raised two cocker spaniels, right, which have been entirely domesticated, of course. Now they're basically like the perfect gift to little girls. I still love them, but their provenance is in hunting, right? To retrieve birds, especially because of their soft mouth. Um, I also love setters, English preferably, but also Irish setters and all sorts of other hunting dogs. We can talk about it some other day. But I like the fact that you hunt with your dogs. I think dogs are the ultimate companion. Um, yeah, I need another one in my life. So these are the new dials that Rolex introduced: fluted or palm motif. For the Datejust range, two exclusive designs unveiled last year, of course. Fluted and palm dials with 10 diamond set hour markers are now available for the model. The Datejust 41 is offered with the fluted motif and chromolite hour markers on its dial for the first time. The fluted motif can also be seen on two other dial colors: 10 diamonds on Datejust 36 and chromolite hour markers on Datejust 41, and mint green on Datejust 41. So here we have it, right? Bright blue gloss fluted motif set with 10 diamonds. Golden gloss fluted motif set with 10 diamonds. Again, this available for yellow Rolesor versions. The earlier blue dial was for white Rolesor. This is for Everose Rolesor, silver, same motif, gloss, 10 diamonds, matching coronet, of course, at 12 o'clock. You have the slate gray, a similar version of the dial. You have the same blue fluted motif for 41, available for oyster steel and white Rolesor, with the chromolite hour markers, mint green chromolite hour markers, again, oyster steel and white Rolesor. 41, golden fluted motif chromolite for yellow gold, slate chromolite markers for Everose, matching coronet, again for Everose in silver, chromolite and fluted motif with the matching coronet. And you have, of course, the palm fronds diamond set in olive green, diamond set for white gold, or white Rolesor rather, for Datejust 36, again, golden palm fronds diamond set for yellow, and silver diamond set with the matching coronet once again for Everose in silver. And you have the new dials introduced for the day dates here: white lacquer, slate sunburst, kind of a mint green lacquer here, mint green sunburst for Datejust 36, mint green sunburst also for Datejust 41, and diamond pavé for Datejust 40 with 10 baguettes for the index markers. And there we have it, the Falcon Eye, as they called it earlier, that is exclusively available for the Yacht-Master 42 version and the Datejust. Oh no, that is just for Yacht-Master 42. Sorry, that's an Onyx style for Datejust 40. This will be really popular and collectible, I'm sure. Rolex has developed special expertise in the creation of dials made from decorative stone. During the production process, the stone discs destined for the dials are cut from a block of raw material. Only those whose color and structure fully satisfy the brand's aesthetic requirements are selected. They will grace the dial of a Rolex watch, conferring it with a unique personality. And that's the most beautiful thing, I think, about precious stone, decorative stone dials in Rolex, because they all have their distinct texture that still somehow conforms to the larger aesthetic of the brand. So it's very unique, whether we are talking about meteorite dials, onyx dials, and now the Falcon's Eye dials, which are exclusively available in Yacht-Master 42 in white gold. You have something truly special and one of a kind for your watch. And the Falcon's Eye is described by Rolex as a gray veined navy blue quartz, right? This is onyx on the left, and here we have Falcon's Eye on the right. Silky appearance. Falcon's Eye is an opaque macrocrystalline quartz featuring veins of crocodilite. Amazing. And you have some of the more casino sorts of designs again that are not in catalog. Kind of a roulette version of Yacht-Master 40 here, with a bezel set in precious stones. A version with the diamond pavé dial, and the decorated lugs as well in both models, of course. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that has to be said about factory set dials and bezels and everything else with Rolex, they always choose the best stones, and they have access to the best quality of stones. So if you're into bling rather than getting them elsewhere, it's best to just, I think, depend on Rolex's expertise and access and roll with it. I'm not sure how many people who are listening are interested in this, but it's always best to go with what the factory and what the brand offers you if you're interested in the long-term value retention of your watch. And you have a new Daytona here. I think this just looks brilliant to me, honestly. Right. If you know, if you're gonna have one gem-set watch, why not have it in this beautiful baguette cut index markers in a deep orange hue of sapphire, same trapeze cut sapphires decorating the bezel, cognac gemstones, it says. Certainly a unique and instantly recognizable aesthetic. And there you have, you know, more rainbow colored and diamond pavé dials in full gold with the matching gold bracelet, white and yellow gold. Hey, MLMJ. Cam Fresno says, yikes. Look, I mean, again, this is not the first thing I go for, but I do appreciate it when I see it, at least in promotional material. It always looks interesting, and it really gives you an insight into another aspect of the brand that we don't necessarily focus on otherwise. right? The art of gem setting. Diamonds, sapphires, rubies, emeralds, the noblest and most precious stones are selected to grace Rolex timepieces. Gotta love this almost poetic purple prose marketing copy that are selected to grace this Rolex catalog. The brand has in-house expertise and equipment, enabling it to bejewel any model in its catalog. Experienced gemologists first select the gemstones of highest quality and exclusively natural origin. They can rely on their own seasoned judgment as well as our state-of-the-art analysis equipment, identical to that found in the best independent gemology laboratories. These experts are able to compose perfectly harmonious sets of gemstones, whether to group stones of the same hue or to create sophisticated color sequences. The stones are then entrusted to the gem setters, who skillfully place each one individually onto watch by hand, assuring precision to within hundredths of a millimeter. Such stringent tolerances guarantee that each stone shines with optimal brilliance and is perfectly aligned with those around it. These time-honored gestures, which may be repeated many hundreds of times, ensure that each gem set watch produced by Rolex sparkles with exceptional intensity and reflects the standard of excellence required by the brand. And there we have it. There we have it. All right, guys, welcome back. I'm sending out the link now. And maybe if one or two of you would like to join in, I'd love to talk further, talk more in specific detail about the models introduced and about addition or removal certain features. I think this has been quite enlightening to me, especially seeing how Rolex marketed the new GMT Master Ii without saying anything at all about left-handers in the promotional material or in this internal catalog circulated to authorized dealers. They have simply focused on how unique it is within the contemporary lineup and how historic it is for them to produce this inverted GMT Master watch within the line of industrial production, and how they gave us a new bicolor combination for the bezel insert, right? There's hardly any reference to how the watch should be worn or by what kind of people. They have just focused on the fact that it's something unique and rare and that you should get it before they discontinue it, basically. Ken, thank you, man, for your support and commendation. I thought it was a very interesting document, even though it has certain details that make for a tedious reading. I think at least in a couple of sections and moments, we gained the kind of insight that we couldn't have otherwise. Thank you, Turkey. Thank you for the kind words. I'm wearing today my Submariner 4-digit, beautiful, real riveted bracelet. Yeah, man. You know, I don't find a problem adoring some of those unique gem set Rolexes from a certain distance, but my aesthetic is usually much simpler. I love three-handers. You know, no date, nothing. Never gets the date wrong. You never have to set it up. Just wind and wear. Quick wristwatch check. So guys, we have come to the end of another live stream. If you have liked this content, and if you're here for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe. You'll help me quite a lot in reaching my first major goal in YouTube, which is 1,000 subscribers. So with that in mind, if you have been enjoying my content, please send it out far and wide. Share it with everyone you know, and each and everyone who would be interested, so I can get more eyes on this content. I try to have a good balance of half an hour, hour and a half long live streams, and some shorter narrative videos that emerge from live streams and that have a more organized and formal structure of presentation. You can always send me an email with requests, with questions. If you want me to delve into the history of a brand, if you want me to take a peek into a particular model in their lineup, if you want me to give you some advice with regards to an upcoming purchase in the vintage market, in the secondary market, or even at retail for contemporary models, shoot me an email at lordhellespont5@gmail.com, lordhellespont@gmail.com, and throw in just a nominal PayPal donation that's connected to the same address, and I'll be more than happy to make a special video for you and dedicate an entire live stream, in fact, to your question and to your request. And I have a pretty flexible schedule since I run my own business, so we can certainly make sure to schedule that live stream according to your preference, where you can take a more active part in it. Whether you prefer to stay in the chat or jump on the panel is entirely up to you. If you want a collection review, I highly recommend, again, that you send me an email with photos, videos, and in that case, I would very much prefer that we schedule something that includes you and that has you on board, and I can use that occasion to learn more about you as a character within the Archieverse, and learn more about you as a person, and learn more about your life and lifestyle. And I think looking at someone's watch collection and going through them one by one really gives a great opportunity to do that, to know more about a person and their lifestyle. So if you would like me to do that, again, send an email, and for that I only charge $15. So it's just a nominal thing, and you will have an entire hour and a half, 2-hour stream dedicated to you and you only, where we talk about your watches, your collection, your passions, and everything else that you would like. So with that being said, again, thank you so much for your support and presence. Don't forget to upvote on your way out, like, subscribe, and tell your friends. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me, lordhellespont@gmail.com. Signing off. I have been waiting to see you for a long time, and I'm sure I'll see some of you later in the day on some other live streams, especially on the Pontiffs. Take care, guys. See you in the next one.